Yesterday was a big day, and Janet, it was unfortunate that you were not in yesterday, but also there was a national prayer breakfast, but we'd have had a longer conversation. But it was good because today we're going to have a conversation, something that you are very, 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 very big on, right? And this is on matters of menstrual health and menstrual hygiene. And we'll discuss it shortly with Dr. Wanjiku Ndung'u, who is a doctor, and she's here to take us through this conversation. Daktari, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm very well.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
We fix the nation one conversation at a time, like the one we're just about to have with you, where we're going to, engage on matters of menstrual health, menstrual hygiene, and people understanding what this is all about. Because there's a whole issue of, or, no, we don't talk about those things in public. I mean, you don't discuss those things, right? Jano will start you off with the day's quote.
Right. So today's quote is by Rebecca Nyandeng de Mabior, which was said in 2005. This was during her husband's funeral. And she said, in our culture, we say, if you kill the lion, you see what the lioness will do. Yeah?
Yes.
Do you support?
I feel like we don't need to kill the lion for us to be able to see what the lioness will do. I feel like the lioness should be part of the decision making. Yeah, to help the lion make better decisions for the whole pride. Yeah.
That's a really good perspective.
In fact, the lioness is a hunter.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah.
And leader of the hunting pack.
Yeah, sure.
The way they profile lions, I know they're majestic and gorgeous. I know. But they just chill.
They do.
20 hours. They're just like...
That thing is heavy. Have you seen that?
It's heavy. Heavy?
Do you see the way the lioness has run after the prey?
Yes.
Imagine that huge thing. It cannot run.
Have you seen rugby players? How they move?
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have seen
Speed.
them. I have seen
and
them.
Size.
You cannot compare them to the size. It's like saying that you expected rhinoceros to be hunters. Hey.
An angry rhino.
Will hunt.
But you're right, Jano. They just look majestic. They're chilling.
They are for aesthetics and the gram.
Babe.
But they're very good.
It's actually babes.
Babes.
It's bevies.
They're very good at killing each other to make sure that you have the in babe.
Hey, sawa.
Okay.
Sawa, mic drop. Sawa.
It's a whole job by itself. Jano, why do we commemorate World Menstrual Health Day?
You actually spoke really well to it just now. The two reasons is to, make sure that we go away from the stigma. We don't talk about those things. And then on the other side is because it's more of like a human rights issue, and I think people haven't seen it that way for a while. And I know Daktari will also speak to it some more. But the thing about menstrual health is that it can also be a very big disruptor. So if it's access to products that a lot of women and girls can't afford, there's a bit of a disruption in their lives, whether it's not being able to attend or perform well in school because of the indignity of not having sanitary products, whether it is having to trade sex for pads. There's so many disruptions because of a menstrual cycle. It's beautiful, it's a natural biological process, but it's important to recognize without proper management, it's extremely disruptive. Even for women, she'll talk to, I'm sure, menstrual disorders. They've disrupted a lot of women's lives. So I think menstrual health is to validate the conversation. It's to validate and say, number one, when you say we shouldn't talk about these things and it's happening and it's natural and it's healthy, then you're also, you're invalidating a woman's being and a girl's being. You're saying that's not something we need to know. And then number two, if we're not speaking to pushing for access to products or even information, then you're again invalidating the right to information and access. And I think 500 million is the number of globally 500 million women and girls who don't have access to these products and wash facilities as well. So I think that's why people decided, let's come up with a day, the Menstrual Hygiene Day. The first one was commemorated 11 years ago. And then I've seen it just blow up, which is great, because 11 years ago, people would be like, why are you talking about that thing? Now you have people doing it for an entire week. So that's progress. Hey, but the barriers are still very, very many.
Very many.
Very many. Yeah.
Let's start with the direct, person, and that's the woman. Okay, Daktari, as a gynecologist, you deal with patients who are primarily women.
Yes.
Are they open to matters of menstruation? Are they comfortable?
Within the health space, because most of the times when we get patients, the issues they have are mostly related to menstrual issues, and at that time they're able to be open to discuss about them. However, in our society, in general, we have poor health-seeking behavior. So with all the issues and the misunderstanding that goes around seeking gynecological care, it takes a long while before these women seek care, and by the time they're coming, they're already ready to share their issues. But if we go to outreach programs or probably even in a usual clinic for something else, they're unwilling to discuss menstrual issues. They feel when they're not unwell, then that becomes a barrier to communication. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm trying to think of our access to gynecological health and how little it is. For a lot of women, it's a privilege, or they'll only get to that point, especially when they're seeking prenatal care, right? What is the most commonly misdiagnosed or undiagnosed disorder that does have to do with menstrual health?
I feel like the most misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed is menstrual pain, that is dysmenorrhea. Especially in our society, once we have this notion that menstruation should be a painful process. Yes, there's a limit to the pain because there are several biological factors that take place in the body that cause the cramping, the mild cramping. But on the other hand, it may be assigned to something worse that is happening. So in most cases, even for us healthcare workers, we tend to dismiss some of these issues. And it's unfortunate that it also starts from when they're really young, from adolescent. So a girl starts her menstruation when she's around 11, 12, and they talk to the mother or the caregiver who says it's a normal process. So by the time that person gets to seek health care or a gynecologist at that time, then it becomes, the problem has already gone on for long. And even the patient has already gone a distressful quite number of years before they're sorted out.
Which is rather unfortunate, but I remember that dismissal it's communal almost of the pain and the level of pain. I think we've seen it all around us, but how do you know the difference between regular cramps, and this is pain that is consistent with a menstrual cycle or normal, considered normal, and then I've crossed over to a side that could be indicating this is something more serious?
What you need to do is for us to ascertain that something is normal, it's always good to rule out whether there could be many other abnormalities. And I feel like even menstruation should be a comfortable process, because if it's happening every month, every 4 to 7 days, then I feel like it should be a comfortable process. So even that little pain, I feel there is an opportunity to give analgesics. And if one seeks healthcare guidance as far as the pain is concerned, then it's for us healthcare workers to go ahead and try and investigate. Is there something else that could this be more? Because sometimes what happens is that the severe pain that may come, as you say, the grades of pain may come. Some of them have other underlying characteristics, such that the pain may not be there just during menstruation. It lingers on, but maybe it worsens during menstruation. And then the pain may also not be targeted to the lower abdomen, such that a patient notices that this pain is cyclic, it comes every month, but it's associated maybe with chest pain, a headache. Then at that time they realize that then there's an issue.
Are you able to speak to some of the most common menstrual disorders? You've talked about dysmenorrhea. What other ones do you find that most people may have, but it's either undiagnosed or has been difficult for them to manage? I know, things like endometriosis, etc., but are you able to speak to some of the most common menstrual disorders, even if it's the three of them, and how somebody maybe can begin to think, I think I have one of these conditions?
Maybe what I would also discuss is what signs should somebody watch out for them to realize that there could be an issue? We call it a menstrual cycle because we expect it to be predictable, such that you don't have to keep a calendar, but maybe around every mid-month I should be expecting my period. So when you realize that, first of all, there's a loss in predictability, such that you're not able to know exactly when the periods are bound to come, then I think that's one of the signs that maybe you should seek healthcare. And irregular periods may be characterized, first of all, irregular periods. Maybe I should start with what regular periods are. Regular periods, our cycle should be about 21 to 40 days, such that from the first day of the period to the last day before the next period, it ranges between 21 to 40 days, but we commonly use the 28-day mark because that is what is most common among women. It's the most common among women. And then the menstruation should last about 2 to 7 days. So if that is not the case, then that requires seeking help. Then again, we also give an allowance of discrepancy between 1 month and the next, such that if you notice that you have more than 7 days between one cycle and the other, then maybe you need to start wondering what could be the issue. We allow the 7 days because there are several issues. Menstruation is a hormonal process. So our hormones are responsible for very many other things: stress, climate change, another illness, or maybe for our athletes, that also happens. So if you do not have, we give an allowance of about 8 days. Then if that is not the case, then now we should be thinking there's something wrong. So irregularity of these mens first, the pain that is severe, irregularity of these menses, and then also now going into issues of endometriosis. Beyond the pain, there are some other characteristics someone may experience. Let's say you notice that there may be pain, there may be blood in the urine, or you may notice some blood within the stool. Those are some of the things that should alert you there's something that is going on. Then there's also one condition that I don't know whether it is undiagnosed, misdiagnosed, and that is PCOS. And for what happens with PCOS, there are various types of PCOS, and but there's what is most common and what has been known and identified. And what happens is with the availability of information online, sometimes a patient can be able to diagnose what they have, and sometimes it just jumbles the whole thing up. And that also happens with healthcare providers, because we need to read more and to be enlightened more about the changing diagnosis, then we're able to assist our patients as far as that is concerned.
I think another thing people don't have a lot of information on is how much your cycle changes as you get older. By the way, I think we wing a lot of things in this life. You just wake up, suddenly you're maybe 35, and you're like, hey, something is significantly different. And then you don't know whether there's something wrong with me now, maybe I'm sick, or my cycle is evolving. What are some of the major changes that happen as somebody gets older? How much of a change in the cycle, so that they don't think that I'm sick? It's just, oh, I'm just getting older and my hormones are preparing for perimenopause and menopause. What's a normal transition and what's an abnormal transition?
I wish to start from the adolescent stage, and maybe to just give our viewers an understanding of how menstruation occurs. For what happens is that there's more of a response from a part of the brain called the hypothalamus, then gives a response to another organ in the brain called the anterior pituitary. And what this anterior pituitary does is that it produces stimulatory hormones. And these stimulatory hormones are the ones that, again, cause stimulation of the ovary to produce the hormones that we have commonly come to know are the menstruation-associated hormones. So it's like a process. It's like ovary gives back feedback that no, now I have enough of this hormone, so reduce the stimulation. So it's more of like a feedback mechanism. So that starts at puberty, and it may not be well established for the young girls. So we may find that many young girls have menses that are not as predictable as the older person, as maybe the 21-year-old, 25-year-old. So at that time, we have one of the queries is like, my daughter's periods came, and then it's been like 3 months before they have come. Yeah, but it is because that system is not well established. So at that time, we have what we call anovulatory cycles, because we have, in addition to what is happening within the uterus, the ovary also works on itself. And working on itself means it is production of the eggs, and in our terms, we call them follicles that go ahead and ovulate. Yeah, so that is also happening in the ovary. So sometimes the menstruation may be taking place, but the ovulation is not taking place, and vice versa. So those are some of the things that transitions that happen in adolescence. But it does not happen to every girl. Sometimes it's just all systems go from the beginning. So those are some of the issues that we get to experience a lot and see also in adolescents. Then moving on to the ages of 21, maybe in the 20s and early 30s, there's not much. There, women also have an understanding of their body system. So that is where we find more of the predictability, and that is where we find more of childbearing issues are fewer for such women. But again, going into the development of the woman is that we lose, when a baby girl is in the womb, from around, they have the most eggs at around halfway through the pregnancy, and that's around 20 weeks. Then they lose some more. By the time the child is born, they've already lost quite a number of eggs. So that process then stops when the child is born, and then the loss again starts again at puberty. So as we are growing older, we call it the ovarian reserve keeps diminishing. Yeah, and remember we said the ovaries are the ones that are responsible for production of these hormones. So by the time we are getting to the ages which we call ages of likelihood is in getting babies, procreation, then everything looks okay. But now once we get older, then that is where now we start experiencing some of these changes. And this is what we call, maybe from the age of 35, there's something that we call menopausal transition. It is not exactly menopause, but sometimes that's when you start realizing there's a change in these hormones, and that change now keeps the estrogen keeps diminishing as we grow beyond the age of 35 and into 40. Yeah,
it's a good
way to thread
it. Yeah, and that it's important that people know this, because it affects how you move as a woman, and so that you're not, gaslit or mischaracterized. It's your hormones, and there's not much you can do about it, but this kind of awareness, so that there's an understanding. And I think the reason why menstrual injustice, quote unquote, persists and menopausal is because there's a gaslighting of your experience. Yes, there's a very real thing that's happening in your body. Sometimes it's extreme, sometimes it's not, but it affects your productivity, it affects your, and not that it affects everything. It's still, I'm hearing her talk and I'm like, man, the body is a beautiful thing. It just does all these things, even as you're sleeping. It's just working. Right. It's, troubleshooting.
It knows what it's supposed to do.
It knows what it's supposed to do.
It does that.
Yeah, but sometimes it can just be like,
let me fight you.
Let me fight you.
I was going to ask, what common interventions. So there's been an increase in diagnosis for PCOS, for endometriosis. I'm wondering if it's an increase in diagnosis or if it's an actual increase in prevalence. That's one. And number two, are there any behavioral, lifestyle, whatever changes that we could make to perhaps not ease, but in future perhaps see a reduction in either symptoms or manage the symptoms of some of these diseases, conditions actually, let me use that word. So that's number one. Are we seeing more of a prevalence or more of diagnosis?
I think there's a little bit of both. And with evolving medicine, we're able to diagnose these issues faster. And again, because once the population is educated about something, then they'll tend to seek healthcare assistance earlier. So we end up being able to know, to be able to diagnose. And again, there's a lot, having such conversations make people aware that probably, I could be having endometriosis or I could be having PCOS. So,
or it's not normal for me to be unable to move during my menses, right?
Yes. So such things. So especially for endometriosis, it's more of the having better diagnostics. Before, it was thought that only MRI could be useful in diagnosis of endometriosis, but we have experts within our country who have also tried to demystify endometriosis and also given us better, easier, and affordable ways of diagnosis, which is a simple ultrasound, which is a common test done. So I think for that it is more of the diagnosis.
Right. That's good. But the prevalence, I guess there's no way to tell if we didn't have the diagnostics before.
That's true, and the data isn't. At some point it would be great to talk about how national health policy can better address menstrual health, because I think that's something there. Still, Mike Thorne says men should know that menstruation is not only a woman's issue, it's a human issue. When we support women through it, we show love, understanding, and maturity.
100%.
It's all of
I want
us.
to thread that question into talking about caregivers and let's say even teachers. At this age when these girls are adolescents and they're in school, there will be girls who don't have a problem coming to class during their period, and there will be those that have a problem coming to class during the period. How does a teacher know? And how does a teacher help those that are then going through these problems?
First is educate. We put so much responsibility on our teachers and expect them to know so much, but we have not empowered them to be able to identify some of these issues, such that if the way the government decides that we are going to introduce this new curriculum, or we are going to introduce this new subject within the curriculum, I feel like part of what should be introduced is discussion on menstrual health matters, and this should also, and the teachers should also be enlightened as far as that is concerned, because when you take your child to school, you expect the teacher should be able to know when your child is sick, when your child is uncomfortable at this time, and this includes even menstruation, which is a normal process. We do not all have female teachers within our classes. We also have the men. So sometimes it may not be, some may not actually understand what is going on, and sometimes they may not understand. So I feel what is important is to first provide the teachers with the education about menstrual health, and then the teachers will be able to educate the children on menstrual health.
All right. We're just about to go into a break, but when we come back, we've touched on the health bit. I think now let's go into menstrual hygiene. And before that, I have a few myths. They may be myths, they may be facts about menstruation that I want to ask Daktari. If you have some as well, our number is 0719-038-858. 0719-038-858. Hashtag Fixing the Nation and TV. We'll be right back.
Back to our conversation with Dr. Wanjiku.
Yes.
Oh,
More truths. Yes.
I had some myths I wanted to dispel before we get into the comments. Or I don't know if they're myths. Let's find out.
Yeah, let's put it out there. And
Right.
see.
Commonly said things around menstruation that I'm just like, is it true or not, Doc? Dr. Wanjiku Ndung'u is with us in studio, gynecologist, of course, discussing menstrual health and hygiene. Quick one. Exercise can deal with cramps. Myth or
What
fact?
does deal with mean?
Exercise can help ease cramps.
Fact.
Fact.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2, ukiza cramps zitaisha.
Myth. Janet is shaking.
I can attest twice. Twice. I tried twice. I still feel pain.
Nothing.
No.
Nothing.
So, yeah.
All right. If your period is lighter, it means you're more fertile. If your period is heavy, if your period is lighter, it means you're less fertile. If it's heavier, it means you're more fertile.
Myth.
Thank you. I think Zimeisha.
Yeah.
What other common?
That's a good one. Those are good because a lot of people still have. By the way, a lot of people. What are the myths that people come to you with as patients that they say, "Oh, I heard this. Is it true?" What do you hear commonly?
The most interesting one, and I've seen it also flying around in social media, is if your period lasts this number of days, then you're likely to get a boy, or if they last this number of days, you're likely to get a girl. Yeah, such.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's not true?
That's a myth.
Okay.
Can I tell you?
What determines the number of days for a period? Like 4 days, 5 days, or 7 days?
We'll start with maybe a proper understanding of what menstruation is. The menstruation is the monthly bleeding from the uterus, which we'll call the womb in this case, and the womb has an inner layer that usually sheds every month, and what may cause the difference in the 2-day or the 7-day is how thick that inner layer will have developed over that cycle. Then that is what may prolong how long one is going to bleed for. Yeah.
Myths versus facts. Winnie Kariuki is bringing in something here, but we can always go back if there's more medical matters. We hear a lot of period poverty conversations. Can Dr. tell us what it is and how we can address it?
Period poverty is, as you had mentioned earlier, girls and women not having access to menstrual products, and then girls and women not being able to afford menstrual products, and so they end up improvising. Yeah, and this improvisation has a likelihood of introducing infection both into the urinary tract and the reproductive system. Another issue we'd check when we're checking about period poverty is lack of infrastructure. Do we have toilets that would cater for a woman and a girl who is menstruating? And then do we have wash facilities? Is there available water? Is there available soap? And then also lack of disposable bins within our schools, within our churches, within even our workplaces for women and girls who are menstruating.
Right.
That is my understanding of period poverty.
I was trying to think of now what's the other side. For a cycle, and I know it'll vary from person to person, what would be adequate sanitary products and infrastructure to have for good menstrual hygiene and good menstrual health? Access to, this, that, running water.
I feel like access can be improved. The government has a menstrual health management policy that was established in 2020, and this also followed the act, the Basic Education Act, that provided free sanitary towels for girls in school. It's a really good policy if you go through it, and it's able to focus on the issues that we are discussing today. Availability, affordability, the infrastructure, the wash services. However, even with a good policy, we are very behind as far as implementation of this policy is concerned, and sustainability of this, sustainability of some of this provision of sanitary products. Then, I think in around, I don't know, it is 2004. I'm not sure of the date when the government introduced the tax exemption on menstrual products. That, yes, it markedly reduced the cost of menstrual products. But as you said, which good menstrual products, which menstrual products are good to avoid some of these issues? So what happens is that when a good is tax exempt, the use of raw materials, the cost of the raw materials that the manufacturer has used is transferred back to the consumer. So what happens is that the manufacturer wants to make a profit, and they still want to feel like they are providing the menstrual products. So they use raw materials that are of a lower quality. And that's why we end up having some of the issues. Maybe you've had girls complaining that you use pad A, it gives you this, use pad B, it gives you this. Yeah, so those are some of the issues that as far as provision of menstrual products is concerned. Then again, we have issues of, we have very little budget allocation on, yes, we say that we need to give sanitary products to girls, but you see now they are not, the process is not sustainable. And that's where now NGOs come in and guys contribute money, but for how long are we able to do that? Yeah, so in the field of implementation science, we talk about the know-do gap. What we know is that if we provide sanitation, if we build the infrastructure, if we educate girls and women on menstrual health, if we also include the boy child and we also include men into the conversations, then we're able to break down the menstrual stigma. But now what happens is that, what do we do as a society? We avail poor quality menstrual products, and if we avail them haphazardly. We decide now we use them as a political tool with our names and pictures on them when we are giving them to the girls. So I think we need to question ourselves, and as you said, we bridge between what we know and what we actually do. We implement what is available in evidence that is going to be useful in breaking this menstrual stigma.
You know, some of these things really get under my skin and really work on my nerves. We know statistically, the Education Ministry has the figures of the number of children who miss school just because of periods. And we also know that we have a policy that is implementing a constitution that says that children have a right to education, and that we have a free basic education program, that we ensure there's basic education access to all. But even after spending 700 billion shillings plus in our budget, we still have girls who are missing very many days not coming to school just because of this. And we're doing nothing about it. And all we do is just, play these games, expecting that, we'll have NGOs here, we'll have well-wishers there, we'll have, now we come up with NGAF, which could or may or may not provide sanitary support to girls. This is absolute nonsense.
Yeah, it's politicized.
It's one of those things that, you just wish someone could actually take up this issue and take it as a public interest litigation to court. Can you compel the government to provide sanitary products to schools for all? It's simple, basic.
Eric, there's learners under trees. There's a school that received 87 shillings. And I think this is a matter of utmost importance, but I don't think that they feel the same way, and I think we know that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Before I even go into the policy framework, I wanted to ask something from the gynecological side as well, from a sustainability angle. Menstrual cups and period panties, are they a good substitute for pads? Would you recommend them? Because a lot of people will say these are sustainable. You buy one menstrual cup, that can serve you years. You buy period panties, they can serve you years, as opposed to the pad that's also environmentally damaging. Yeah.
Yes, to answer your question on whether menstrual cups would be able to sort out the issues we have, yes, they would. But we need to get menstrual cups that are of good quality. Yeah, silicone made menstrual cups. Yeah, that you can be able to give these girls. It would be an awesome thing. And one thing I've also found useful is having disposable sanitary towels. We have NGOs in the country who go into these societies where there's the highest unmet need for menstrual products, and they educate women on how to stitch and make these disposable menstrual pads, such that you use them for that period of time, wash, and then you dry it. Yes. But now, again, when we look at these societies, where is the water? Yeah, where is the water to clean that menstrual cup, to wash your hands after you have used it? Where is the water to wash even that disposable pad? Yeah, so I think it would be a good thing, but
or the reusable cup. So I think I called it a period panty, but I was trying to,
There's also period panties.
Yeah,
the
ones
which
also
are,
period
the pad is stitched
on. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, it's a sanitation, water and sanitation issue. So yes, it could fix the problem only if there's running water and access to it and clean water.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a stigma attached to insertion. So that for the cups and tampons, usually you find that certain communities are averse. They're like, hey, what are you teaching our girls? And it's a product.
Which brings me to a myth or fact question. Don't teach your young girls to use the tampon. Let tampons be used by older girls.
That, you see, in medicine, there's a thin line between the truth, pro-choice, pro-choice, and also the influence the medical worker should have. When we are making decisions for these young girls, remember they are minors. Yeah, and if we want something to be sustainable, it's always important to involve the person who is taking care of them. Yeah, and that's where even when we are making policy, that's where stakeholder input comes in. In society A, as Janet has rightly mentioned, would they be accommodative? They are safe, but would they be accommodative if you introduce maybe use of tampons or use of menstrual cups? Yeah, and so I think it goes with they are usable. We are unlikely to teach, one, because of the cost, the availability, the sizing of what is available. Again, it's what you see when you look at the manufacturers and these menstruation product brands. They want to manufacture what can quickly go.
Yep.
If they go ahead and make that smaller tampon, who is going to buy it? Yeah, in our supermarkets. So yes, they can be used, but it's those ones of what is workable in our local context. Yeah.
You know, this thing, sometimes you don't know how to process these kinds of conversations because they've been had to death. And I get where Eric's frustration is. It's just a matter of, imagine politicizing something that affects girls. Some of them are given 3 packets a year because your period holds for 9 months.
Okay.
It says pause, and it'll work around the number of packets you're given. And I think there was an allocation in 2023-24 of 940 million. Right? I think it's one of the highest. But everyone, a lot of the people will tell you on the ground, Sijapata, I haven't gotten, or you're given 2, or you're given none.
Yeah.
So there's a very unfair and unjust implementation game that's going on. the docket that has been ping-ponged from education to gender to health to gender to health.
Oh, wow.
So there's all this funding, there's all this goodwill. Sometimes these conversations are also sexified. So people jump on a trend to be like, oh my gosh, let's talk about periods and make it cool. Mariam is
I
about
know
to,
who you're
she's like
talking about.
intrusive thoughts.
I know.
And it's okay to have moments of advocacy because it sheds light once again. But all of these factors actually work against justice completely. You center yourself as opposed to the issue. The policy game, the declarations and nothing. So I think how we can achieve is, number one, is just recognizing that that women and girls' rights when it comes to menstruation are important. You know, a lot of people are just like, aye, you've just talked about 87 shillings, huh? Now add, actually now over there you want us to consider if these pads.
Within our 87 bob that we've been given.
Yeah, there's a
right.
deprioritization of people's rights. We've talked about it, health, education. So menstrual health now falls under that. It becomes a victim of the deprioritization. So Daktari will keep doing her incredible work. Us guys will keep making noise. That helps. But people at the top have to actually say, man, you know what? I care enough that we have more school attendance and performance.
Right.
So I think the latest data is 1 million girls missing out on school in Kenya. Globally, it's way, by the way, this thing is global. It's in Los Angeles, it's in London, it's in Nepal. It means period poverty and period stigma is global. Some countries like Scotland actually said, we're making products free. New Zealand,
First of
Canada.
that kind,
Kenya has the best policies. By the way, we're the first country to have the menstrual policy. The tax one, the tax exempt, we were the first country in the world.
It was in 2017.
The Basic Education Act was
2017.
He policy 2019 to 20, first country. Policy, A game.
10 over 10.
10 over 10.
We do very well.
We do very well, very nice.
Implementation is where we draw the line.
And at the expense of people's lives. So then if you do that, if you deprioritize, you're sending a message. The thing isn't important. Then the men and boys are also receiving the message that a lot of guys have come on board. They're incredible allies, but more or less they're just like, I guess it's not important. So it's the message you send from the top.
How do we destigmatize the period conversation? If one of my colleagues was having a toothache this morning, they'll basically just say, I'm having a toothache, or I'm having a headache. But if they're having cramps, not many of them will actually sit down and say, I'm having period cramps.
Not me and Jano. We're just like, girl,
Janet,
today
these cramps.
But that's it. It's that saying.
Can we is it possible, from your experience, from dealing with many people, is it possible to actually normalize these conversations?
It is.
I'm on my period.
It is very possible. I'm part of a program that works with in menstrual hygiene. It's called Padapagal. It was started by 2 young girls from Dagoretti. It's and the way they've taken it up is they get some money. They get like crowdfunding for money, and then they go and do for them to be allowed into schools. It's a pad distribution exercise. But when we go for these activities, it's not just distribution of pads. It's enlightening boys and girls about their bodies. And when we start at that basic age, when the boy understands how a girl's body works, and a girl understands how her body works, at the appropriate age, then they'll be able to understand some of these issues when they come about and also support. So, and in these conversations, we have also male allies. Even Eric, you can join us or join one that is in your proximity, where we involve, we also use men to educate, and for the boys at that level to understand that this is a normal conversation. It's a human conversation, because when you talk about menstruation, it not only affects the individual, it affects the family. Like for that girl who is missing school, what happens in the long run? They tend to have less education. Some even drop out, because I mean, everybody in class will know you missed class because you're menstruating. And because we have not really destigmatized this issue, then that continues to happen. So yes, it is possible to end menstrual stigma.
Asante sana. Dr. Wanjiku Ndung'u is a gynecologist. She's been here to take us through menstrual health and hygiene as we commemorate a day later, the World Menstrual Health Day. But keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. We give a mic to a lawyer who's here to say why he thinks that all presidential advisors should go home today. It's 9 a.m. Back in a moment.